He laughed as he tore up her $45,000 Harvard check, mocking her dreams, her race, and her dignity. But the bank manager had no idea. The cleaning lady he insulted was actually a billionaire CEO, and his career was about to be shredded, just like that check. The sound didn't just echo, it ruptured. Like a gunshot in a cathedral, the sharp rip of paper tore through the hushed sanctity of First National Bank's premium branch. Every head turned, every whisper died. Even the hum of the air conditioning seemed to pause in reverence or horror. At the center of it all stood James Morrison, 52, impeccably dressed in a charcoal suit and Italian silk tie, his posture radiating the smug confidence of a man who'd spent 2 decades believing he was the gatekeeper of legitimacy. In his hand, the shredded remains of a $45,000 check. On the floor, destiny quite literally in pieces. "Girl," he sneered, tossing the confetti of financial ruin into the nearest trash bin. "Do you think I was born yesterday?" 16-year-old Destiny Williams didn't flinch. She stood tall in her modest navy sweater and jeans, her dark curls pulled back in a neat ponytail, eyes steady as obsidian. To the untrained eye, she might have looked like any other teenager. Nervous, perhaps, out of place in a bank where clients wore Rolexes and carried portfolios thicker than novels. But those who looked closer saw something else, a stillness that wasn't fear, but focus. A calm forged in the fires of repeated microaggressions, each one a lesson in dignity. "This check," she said, voice clear and unwavering, "is for my tuition at Harvard University. It was issued by the Stevens Academic Foundation." James let out a bark of laughter so loud it startled a woman depositing a check at the next counter. "Harvard?" He leaned forward, eyes narrowed with theatrical disbelief. "Sure, sweetheart. And I'm the Queen of England. You expect me to believe a kid like you got into Harvard?" The phrase "a kid like you" hung in the air like poison. Destiny had heard it before, in middle school when she aced the state science fair, in high school when counselors suggested more realistic career paths, even at her private school scholarship interview when a board member asked if she'd ever been around this kind of academic rigor. Each time, she'd responded with silence, excellence, or both. But today was different. 3 weeks earlier, Destiny had become the youngest student in Harvard's history to be accepted into its elite pre-med program. Fully funded, no loans, no compromises. Only 5 students nationwide receive this honor each year. The check? Not a personal gift. Not a loan. It was Harvard's official payment for administrative and enrollment fees. Signed by the Dean of Admissions herself, and James Morrison had just treated it like scrap. "I suggest you leave," he said, straightening his cufflinks with a flourish, "before I call security, or worse, the police." Destiny inhaled slowly, recalling her mother's words from years ago. "Honey, people will try to shrink you because of your skin. But diamonds aren't made in comfort, they're forged under pressure." She watched as James snapped a photo of the torn check with his phone, grinning like he'd just caught a thief red-handed, probably planning to share it in the break room later, laughing with colleagues about another fraud attempt from the streets. Then, with quiet precision, Destiny asked, "Can I have a copy of the security report?" James blinked. "A what?" "The incident report. From your surveillance system," he scoffed, waving a dismissive hand. "What for? To show your cleaning lady mom that you got caught trying to scam a bank?" Something shifted in Destiny's eyes. Not anger, not tears. "Resolve. My mother," she said evenly, "is not a cleaning lady. But even if she were, that wouldn't change my right to be treated with respect." James rolled his eyes. "Security! Escort this girl out. And if she shows up again, don't even let her pass the front door." As the guard gently but firmly guided her toward the exit, Destiny didn't look back. She walked with her spine straight, her head high, her heart pounding not with shame, but with purpose. Outside, beneath the mirrored glass facade of the bank, she pulled out her phone. Her fingers trembled only once as she typed, "Mom. It happened. Just like you warned me." But this time they messed with the wrong daughter. She hit send. And somewhere, In a quiet suburban home that looked ordinary from the street but hummed with quiet power within, Regina Williams read the message and smiled. Not a warm smile, a war smile. 2 hours later, James Morrison was still basking in his self-proclaimed victory. In the staff break room, coffee in hand, he held court like a king recounting a battlefield triumph. "You should have seen her face!" He laughed, showing the photo of the shredded check to a group of junior tellers. "Said it was for Harvard. Can you believe the nerve? These kids think we're stupid." Sarah, the receptionist who'd witnessed the entire exchange, frowned into her tea. Something about Destiny's composure had unsettled her. Not because the girl seemed guilty, but because she seemed innocent in a way that felt inconvenient. "James," Sarah ventured carefully, "are you sure the check was fake? She didn't act like someone trying to scam us." He shot her a condescending look. "Sarah, darling, I've been in banking for 20 years. I can spot a fraudster from a mile away. That girl? Classic case." What James didn't know, Sarah had already jotted down the time, the incident number, and a note about his exact words, "cleaning lady mom." She'd also discreetly flagged the security footage for backup. Meanwhile, 3 blocks away, Destiny sat in a quiet corner of the Roasted Bean, her laptop open, fingers flying across the keys. She drafted an email to Harvard's financial office. "Dear Ms. Alvarez, due to an administrative error at my local bank, my enrollment payment was rejected. I'd kindly request a duplicate check be issued and sent directly to the president of First National Bank, along with an official letter of authentication signed by the dean. Sincerely, Destiny Williams, Harvard class of 2028, pre-med." She hit send. Then she opened another tab and typed, "First National Bank CEO contact." Her mother had taught her early, never fight a battle you can win with paperwork. Back at the bank, James posted the photo on Instagram with the caption, "Another day protecting our institution from fraud. Constant vigilance." He had no idea that post would become Exhibit A in a lawsuit within 48 hours. At 6:30 p.m., Destiny arrived home, a modest 2-story house in a quiet neighborhood. To a passerby, it looked unremarkable, but the Tesla Model S in the garage, the biometric security system, and the perfectly manicured garden told a different story. Inside, Regina Williams sat at the dining table, surrounded by contracts and financial reports. At 42, she was the founder and CEO of Williams Tech Solutions, an ed-tech empire valued at $340 million. She'd built it from nothing after becoming a single mother at 26, coding late into the night while Destiny slept in a crib beside her. "How was your day, mija?" Regina asked without looking up. "Interesting," Destiny replied, kissing her mother's forehead. "I finally met the kind of person you always warned me about." Regina's pen stilled. She looked up, and for the first time that day, her eyes turned to ice. "Oh, honey," she said softly, a dangerous smile playing on her lips. "Some lessons can only be learned the hard way. And something tells me Mr. James Morrison is about to get the most expensive education of his life." That night, while James slept soundly, dreaming of his upcoming promotion to regional director, mother and daughter worked in tandem. Destiny compiled every detail: the time, the witnesses, the exact words spoken, the Instagram post, the security camera angle. Regina made 3 calls. The first to Victoria Chun, CEO of First National Bank, a woman she'd met 5 years ago at a Women in Leadership Summit. They'd stayed in touch, though Regina had deliberately kept her identity low profile. "You never know when discretion becomes your greatest weapon," she'd once told Destiny. The second to Dr. Michael Roberts, a civil rights attorney known for taking on institutional discrimination cases and winning. The third to Harvard's Dean of Admissions. By dawn, a war room had been assembled, not with soldiers, but with documents, legal briefs, and a single, unshakable truth. No one humiliates a Williams and walks away unscathed. The next morning, James arrived at work whistling. He'd printed the Instagram photo and showed it to his wife over breakfast. "Saved the bank from a scammer," he boasted, sipping his 28 per pound Ethiopian roast. Kids these days think they can print money at home. He had no idea that at that very moment, Regina Williams was stepping into an elevator on the 50th floor of the Williams Tech Solutions headquarters. Her navy blazer sharp, her heels clicking like a countdown. At 2:30 p.m., James received a call from the CEO's office. "Mr. Morrison, Ms. Chun would like to see you immediately. It's regarding an incident yesterday." His chest swelled with pride. "Of course. She wants to commend me personally." He adjusted his tie, smoothed his hair, and walked to the executive floor with the swagger of a man expecting a medal. But when he entered Victoria Chun's office, his confidence evaporated like mist. Seated beside the CEO was Destiny, no longer the intimidated teen, but poised, sharp, wearing a simple white blouse that somehow radiated authority, and next to her, a woman in a tailored navy blazer, eyes like steel, posture like a queen. "Mr. Morrison," Victoria said, voice colder than liquid nitrogen. "Please sit. I need you to explain exactly what happened yesterday with this young woman." James stammered. I followed protocol. The check looked suspicious." "The check," Destiny interjected calmly, "was for my Harvard pre-med tuition. I'm the youngest student ever accepted into the program." Victoria slid a folder across the desk. Inside, Harvard's official authentication letter, signed by the dean, along with a scathing note questioning why their scholar had been publicly humiliated like a common criminal. James paled. Then Regina stood. "Victoria, thank you for seeing us so promptly," she said, extending a hand. "As I mentioned on the call, situations like this can become problematic if not handled with care." Victoria's eyes widened. "Regina? You're her mother?" James froze. "Regina." The name meant nothing to him, until Victoria turned to him, fire in her gaze. "Mr. Morrison, you have no idea who you just humiliated." Regina walked to the panoramic window, then turned. "Allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is Regina Williams. I am the founder and CEO of Williams Tech Solutions." James's breath hitched. He knew that name. Williams Tech Solutions had a $340 million contract with First National Bank. They'd designed the very security system recording his every move. And, Victoria added, pulling up a screen, "Regina owns 12% of this bank. She is our third largest individual shareholder." James felt the room tilt. Then Victoria turned on the wall monitor. There it was, high-definition footage of him tearing the check. Mocking Destiny, tossing it like trash. His own voice echoed, "A girl like you?" "We've had full audio-video surveillance for 2 years," Victoria said flatly. "You were recorded in 4K. Dr. Roberts, who'd been silent until now, opened his briefcase. "Mr. Morrison, I have here a civil suit for racial discrimination, humiliation of a minor, destruction of property, and defamation. Total damages, $2.3 million. I can file it in 2 hours." James's legs buckled. His $85,000 salary wouldn't cover the legal fees, let alone the judgment. But Regina leaned forward. "However, I have an alternative." She laid out the terms. James would be fired immediately for cause, with a permanent mark on his record for racial discrimination. First, National Bank would implement mandatory anti-racism training for all employees, funded by Williams Tech Solutions. A $500,000 scholarship fund would be created for low-income black students, administered by the Williams Foundation. Refuse, and the lawsuit, federal investigation, and national media storm would destroy the bank, and him. James whispered, "I accept." As he signed his resignation with trembling hands, Destiny approached him one last time. "Mr. Morrison," she said gently, "the problem wasn't that I didn't look like someone worthy of respect. The problem was that you forgot everyone deserves it, regardless of how they look." He walked out carrying a cardboard box of his belongings. Inside, the photo of the torn check, now a tombstone for his career. 6 months later, Destiny Williams strode through Harvard's historic corridors in a white lab coat, anatomy books in hand, already ranked in the top 10 of her class. Her research on racial bias in medical diagnosis, inspired by that day at the bank, was gaining national attention. Hospitals in 5 states had already adopted her protocols. Meanwhile, James Morrison clocked in at Fresh Mart Supermarket, scanning groceries for $12 an hour. The permanent note on his record barred him from finance forever. His house was gone. His reputation, ironically, the store's new security system, designed by Williams Tech Solutions. Every time he swiped his employee card, he saw the logo and remembered. First National Bank transformed. Sarah, the receptionist, now led customer service. The anti-racism training became a national model. The scholarship fund helped 127 students in its first year. At a gala honoring Victoria Chun for inclusive leadership, she said, "A 16-year-old girl taught us that judging by appearance isn't just cruel, it's costly. True strength isn't in gatekeeping. It's in opening doors." Destiny watched the speech from her dorm, tears in her eyes. On her desk, a framed photo of her and Regina at Harvard's gates. On the back, Regina's handwriting. "To my daughter, who taught me that dignity is priceless, and justice has no expiration date." 3 years later, Destiny was in medical school, specializing in pediatric cardiology. Her TED Talk on bias in medicine had 4 million views. James, still scanning groceries. Sometimes former colleagues saw him in the cereal aisle and looked away, not out of pity, but shame. For laughing when he mocked a girl who would become a healer. The story went viral. How a racist bank manager destroyed his own career in 5 minutes. Over 3 million views. Countless shares. But Destiny never posted about it, because her revenge wasn't destruction, it was transcendence. She didn't burn James down. She rose so high, his shadow couldn't touch her. And in the end, the check he tore didn't just pay for tuition, it paid for justice.